For being a part of this. This is just not informational with Ed, with what's going on. I call it a celebration as well. A lot of work went in from everyone to make today possible. It's compounding investments on the other side, on the private side, that wouldn't be here otherwise. And frankly, we wouldn't have the same future and opportunities that we had before us if we weren't here. So enjoy the meal. I wish. You know, the bad thing with this job, you go to 3 different places to lunch, and you never eat. That's just the way it is. But thank you so much for everything you're doing day to day. Folks that are there every day working, really appreciate everything you're doing. Ed, thank you for your leadership. And the good news is, if you work with me sometimes, you get to stay and eat. So Ian's going to stay and eat, and I'm going to leave. So thank you.
Thank you, Congressman. Thank you. Our state delegation has been incredibly generous with their support over the last few years and always. The municipal pier repairs, which we just finished with both Port Authority funds and funds from the Seaport Economic Council. If you were here 2 weeks ago, you would have seen our guys putting together cathodic protection for our piers, and that wouldn't be possible without the support from the state. The port planning that we've done, both redevelopment planning on the parcel next to us, and just general planning for the waterfront, has been a big part of the Seaport Council and the support from our delegation. But Mass Tech Collaborative, doing some of the cool technology stuff through the New Bedford Ocean Cluster, which I'll get into in a second. But crucially, and the main topic that we want to talk about today is the dredging project and funding for the design of that dredging, which was secured thanks to our delegation in last June. We're about 75% of the way through that, and it's really exciting what we've been able to put together. One of the key parts of what we're trying to do here at the port is to really get the most out of the natural resource that we have coming across our docks. So we started the New Bedford Ocean Cluster in 2017 as a partnership between us and Spherical Analytics, a technology company that does Internet of Things technology on vessels. That's part of a Mass Tech Collaborative grant that we got, of course, with the help of our delegation. But we're also focused on other things that are getting the most value, getting 100% utilization of the fish, looking at different products, looking at how other countries harvest fish and process fish, and if there's some opportunities to bring that technology to the businesses that are here. That's really one of the key points of the New Bedford Ocean Cluster. And we've seen just already what's happening in the private sector is, there's a lot, we've become a much more versatile and diverse fishing port. Basically anything that you can economically harvest from the Northwest Atlantic comes to New Bedford, whether it's dogfish or ground fish, scallops. Obviously 80% of our value comes from scallops, but clams, slime eels. We've had a 5-fold increase in slime eel vessels landing in New Bedford. So it's really anything that makes sense to harvest from the Northwest Atlantic. New Bedford is either quickly becoming or is really the most important port in terms of that. So taking that natural resource and getting more value out of it through different opportunities with full utilization is really the point of the New Bedford Ocean Cluster. And then finally, aquaculture. Because of the supply chain here that is so strong from the commercial fishing side, the wholesalers, the processors, we really think commercial aquaculture is a big opportunity in New Bedford waters, utilizing that supply chain to make better outcomes for our residents and more opportunities for our residents. So we thank the City Council for looking at aquaculture. And if there's any questions any counselors have, we're happy to take you out on the boat. Just choose a nice day, and we'll show you what we're thinking in terms of commercial aquaculture. You can go to the next slide, Abby. So one of the things that the mayor alluded to in his State of the City address yesterday was the economic impact of the port, which is through a study that this is now the second iteration of the study that we've done. The first one was in 2015, and folks probably remember the $9.8 billion worth of economic impact. This is the methodology that our consultant went through. It was 153 sit-down or phone interviews with port businesses, including everybody that was here today, to figure out what are the jobs numbers, how much have you grown in the last 3 years, and what would happen if dredging came in, and how would you utilize your facilities differently if dredging was a big part of, if dredging were to open up different opportunities. So this is the methodology. You can go to the next, and this is what they came up with. So we've had quite an increase in the actual economic value. We're up to 11.1 billion. The business revenue is up almost 500 million. The jobs is up almost 600 jobs, and the direct wages, which is a big part of your economic impact, is also way up. So just in the last 3 years, and this is 90% of this is because of the fishing industry and the processors and the wholesalers that we have here. Big increases in the jobs numbers, in the economic value numbers. And the report also looked at what would happen if we did some dredging and opened up different parts of the harbor. And I mean, you can see another 900 or so new jobs. And that's kind of what we're going to talk about today with some of the private sector folks that are here. And I want to note another $12.5 million in state and local taxes, and the breakdown is about 65% of that is the state. So we're happy that the state gave us this funding to do this study to understand what the actual economic impact is, and we're happy to report that impact is enormous and growing, and with more investment from the state through dredging, we can get to the next level as the port. Go to the next slide. So phase 5 dredging, again, thank you to the delegation for helping make the dredging design happen. We're 75% complete. We have CLE Foth here represented. There are engineers on it based out of Merrill. One of the things this project has grown, and it's one of the great examples of what can happen when New Bedford and Fairhaven are working together, because just like the private sector doesn't necessarily see the line that runs between New Bedford and Fairhaven, working together on things like dredging saves both of our communities and the Commonwealth of Massachusetts quite a bit of money by bringing this all into one project. So you can see that we have, there's about 22 New Bedford businesses that have signed up and that have gotten quotes, and 13 Fairhaven businesses that have looked at dredging and built that into their longer term plan. Obviously, it's not just New Bedford. So this is the bathymetric of the harbor, and that's sort of the baseline to figure out what the quantities we need in order to put it into a confined aquatic disposal cell. Another key part of this project is that it's also leveraging federal dollars that Congressman Keating talked about, and that Senators Warren and in particular Senator Markey has really pushed for. So in December it was announced a $15 million build grant to extend the north terminal, and that project will utilize clean material from the construction of the CAD cell as beneficial reuse in the backfill. So there's two separate projects that we're sort of merging together, and it's also going to, you can go to the next slide, it's also going to add between 800, we haven't done the full design on this project yet. In fact, the U.S. Maritime Administration is coming next week to begin to talk about it. So this summer we'll be doing design and working with all of our neighbors, but it's going to add another 800 to 1,000 feet of bulkhead for fishing vessel capacity, but also for marine contracting and that kind of thing on our north terminal. So it's a very exciting project, and because of the effort of the delegation, we were able to get it because of the match for the dredging project. So we appreciate that as well. You can go to the next slide. One thing I do want to mention. All of this is possible because of what's called the state enhanced remedy to the Superfund legislation. So we're able to dredge if because our harbor unfortunately is contaminated. If there's an economic reason to dredge and the EPA wasn't going to clean it up anyway, we could get it all permitted through what's called the state enhanced remedy process, which is a working group that includes Mass DEP, Coastal Zone Management, DMF, but also the federal resource agencies. But that process is how we're able to do all the things that we've done in the last 15 years and everything that we plan to do that we talked about today. So your continued support for that permitting process is going to be really critical to make all of the wonderful things that we've been talking about today happen. So I'll give, we appreciate you guys coming, and I'll give Chairman Cabral an opportunity to come and say a few remarks.
I come to announce millions of dollars, not only good. Well, good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be here. Obviously, I know your interests and why you are here and why I'm here and why Chris Hendricks is here and the rest of the delegation, because we know how important your issues, individual issues, are important for the collective benefit of the whole port of New Bedford. We know we've been working very hard, along with also the folks at the federal level, to secure additional funding. But the state funding is crucial. When you saw here on the slide, Mass Works. Well, Mass Works is a program, not a company. It's a state program that gets capital money. The last time the bill that went through my committee, we signed an authorization of $500 million for Mass Works. So all of those monies that comes through Mass Works originally went through my committee, and we made sure that Mass Works had enough capital going forward to try to meet the needs not only of us in New Bedford, but obviously the needs throughout the state. There are more needs than money, as you all know, but I think we're trying very hard around this issue of dredging. Been working for several years on that. The money, the state money is, the authorization is secure, it's there, it's in place, up to $35 million of state authorizations that I don't want to keep patting myself in the back, but I secured that earmark on a bill, again, on a bond bill that came through my committee. We need to do, this design work is crucial, because also will free up and being able to get some money from the Army Corps of Engineers. Because there is a role for the federal government here, especially on the main channel, and we can't secure that money without really the state also having a commitment on the books, and we have that commitment. It's a matter of figuring out how much we need from the Army Corps, and we don't have that number from them yet, but I think the study will determine that, I think, that this is whatever we need from the Army Corps. Either at that point there is enough funding within the Army Corps budget to accommodate this project, or Congress has to go back and actually plug in some money into that budget. It's been done before. It was done for Boston, for example. The state put up $65 million for Boston on the same line item that the $35 million is for New Bedford. And then the feds, well, the Congress actually came up with the rest of the federal appropriation for all the dredging that's going on in Boston. It's different purpose, the dredging in Boston, is to prepare the, Boston for the big ships. What do they call them? Post-Panama, whatever they call the name of those ships. The huge container ships that right now Boston can even compete in that area if we don't do that also in the Boston Harbor. So that's going on. and Congress already appropriated the money for their portion of the money. So once we figure out through the study how much money exactly is going to cost and how much the Fed's responsibility is, then we're going to need all of you along the delegation to put the pressure on the Army Corps of Engineers or to do a direct appropriation like they did for Boston. The ideal, from my perspective, I was talking to the congressman a little earlier today at a different meeting, and I told Congressman Keating that if the Army Corps of Engineers does not have within their budget right now that capacity, then probably Congress might need to go in and fix that. It can be done as an earmark. As you know, they changed some of those rules up in Congress. Barney Frank was the master of earmarks. Too bad they can't do that anymore, or they can't do it as they used to be. But I think it will, once we are there with the study, the results of that, I think we will be able to secure that additional funding that we need. And many of you are participating as well. You are putting up your own cash as well, and that's important. And the state recognizes that, and we're going to be supporting you as much as we can to get the stuff done. Obviously, the Port of New Bedford is key for us, as it is key for every individual business that works here, but it's key for the economy. It's key for jobs, for all of us in New Bedford. And for Haven, if I may add, even though I don't represent for Haven, but I think that's an important component of the port. And because we want to have more boats, especially from the Steamship Authority, right? Not only on the Fairhaven side, but on the New Bedford side, right? Because we think the Steamship Authority can provide additional economic impact to this port, into our region. That would be very nice. So thank you for your efforts. Thank you for being here and working with us. I think there seems to be a little bit of the light at the end of the tunnel is beginning to come around. I think we've made some tremendous progress, actually. You got to add and the Port Authority, if I may call it now the Port Authority, even though we won't go into that, because they still need legislation to actually call it the Port Authority. Other than that, it's still officially the Harbor Commission. But I think Ed has done a wonderful job with the board of the Port Authority to really move these issues forward at the state level and at the federal level. And so I think you guys have a great advocate here, really, and the whole commission. I think the whole board they've done tremendous amounts of work to get the issue before not only before us in terms of the legislature, but in terms of the executive branch as well, A&F and the governor's office. So they keep hearing from us, and it's important that Ed and the others keep hearing from you as well, and it's important that we hear from you, quite frankly. Don't be afraid to pick up the phone, and if you need to meet with me, if there's any reason you want to make me aware of any particular issue that pertains to your specific needs, I'm just a phone call away. Sometimes are issues that we can help, others are more complicated, it involves more than just the state, but we are there to listen, we are there to try to move those issues forward. So thanks again, and let's go to work. All right? Thank you. Chris, you want to say a few words? Chris?
Chris Hendricks, State Representative. I don't have much to say, just all the things you thanked us for, I had absolutely nothing to do with. That is just one. But obviously you'll have my support in anything with economic development down here. Before I found the waterfront, I used to paint boats with Dean Kelly's at the time. I don't know if you remember me, Kevin, but I worked for you for a couple of summers. So you'll certainly have my support in endeavors down here regarding economic development.
Thank you very much. So I think we appreciate the delegation for being here. Thank you, Chairman Cabral and Representative Hendricks, as well as our federal delegation. We do have more work to do. We're planning on finishing up the design of the study, and we're hoping to also get some dollars in the capital plan from the state. So we appreciate all of your support. We thank everybody for coming. I also want to give a shout out to the staff of the New Bedford Port Authority or Harbor Development Commission. Either way, we appreciate everything that you guys do. So thank you. I think there's still probably some food. So, and if there's any questions, we're happy to oblige.
Did you know that you can watch any of New Bedford Cable Network shows anytime, anywhere on all of your mobile devices? How, you may ask? Just log on to nbcablenetwork.com and bam! You have all 3 channels at your fingertips: public, educational, and government access. Here, you can view our program schedules, watch our channel's live broadcasts, or search for a particular program in our vast library of shows. Last year alone, New Bedford Cable Network produced over 500 shows, and nearly all of them are available online at nbcablenetwork.com. Not only can you stay up to date with what's happening in your local government and schools, but also dive into some of New Bedford Cable Network's original award-winning programs. So check us out at nbcablenetwork.com.